from Greece, clarinet player, or lauto player, and you tell him, what are we going to play? He's going to tell you Utsamiko. And you go like, okay, so if you don't know it. You go like, okay, so, what measure is that? I go like, measure? I don't know. Just tap it like this. That's it. Follow me. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. And he's never going to know. That's a thing, though. It's a good thing because they have a certain tradition that they won't let go. And the second good element is that they know by heart. It's in their heart. They play it because they feel it like that. It's what they know. It's the ground that they were born on, or the village that they lived in, and all the festivities they had, and that's what they know in their ears. It's like us hearing radio all day, and we listen to those corny songs, and sometimes you just sing it. I even know big composers in Greece that they sang songs like that. It's like, I go, like, how do you know that? I mean, they're 80 years old. I says, I hear it all day on the radio. They want to hear the news, and they just hear corny songs. So, you catch on anything. And the traditions they had was so powerful. They say, Chamiko, let's go. Everybody knows what they're going to play. Everybody knows what they're going to sing. They don't even rehearse. After a while, I mean, the musicians are the same in the village, just called, the same musicians. They used to, not anymore. But they don't rehearse. They just go up there. Say, okay, which is it? The eagle. Okay, let's do it. That happens in many, many traditions. But, I'm really sorry. But when traditions go to interact, a language to be found. This language can be found by the universities, of course. I mean, they can urge those kinds of musicians to learn a little bit of music in order to pass on to us the elements that we actually don't really understand. Because we're musicians, but we're not traditional musicians. Anything I would do, as much music as I learn, I will always break down something to understand what it is. They don't have to. So that's an element that we don't have in music. I mean, in colloquial music or whatever. We don't have that element. We don't have that, okay, let's go. He has to be a maestro. He has to analyze the work. He has to find out what point of view he's going to do it in. Which orchestra he's working with. I mean, there might be, the musician might not be a good orchestra, so he has to deal with it differently. It's too much analysis, too much. And then, these musicians come, and you hear, this clarinet player is the best in the world. And you go like, okay, what does he know? Oh, he doesn't know anything. I mean, he used to build houses. And that's, but what this guy learned by listening and improvising on it. Listening and improvising on it. He doesn't know to write one note, but listening and improvising on it. And that most oral traditions, even in terms of class, because Arab music historically, and in Greece, of course, we have the lesson of music, but Arab music that I know, they used to sit around the master and 5 students, and then he would play something, they would play something. He would sing something, they would sing something. And that's the oral tradition. And of course, when somebody sings something to you, it's almost impossible to say it right the first time. So you're going to start improvising to find it. So improvisation becomes a secondary element at the moment, but then you're just practicing improvisation, even if you don't want it or not. So it's really actually fascinating if you see how all those music traditions work, and even in jazz, that the musicians are very, very knowledgeable, and they have studied, and I've been in I studied jazz composition, so I've been in a university. Still, they like mostly going up on stage and picking up from their fellow musician. I mean, it's nice when you hear live music of Wayne Shorter, for example, that we had in Athens last year, or Herbie Hancock, because you can get stuff out of him. I mean, I've studied Herbie. I know every solo by heart, but then he played live, and it was a different thing, because there's other things in music that you can take advantage of, either going towards the tradition or either going towards the avant-garde or whatever. Is energy. Music is a live thing. So there's a lot of energy in it. And when somebody solos in a good sense, with I'm going to say it in a romantic way, which is have his eyes closed and really feel it. I mean, Charlie Parker used to say, and Rachmaninoff, as I know, used to say that learn the notes and then forget them. You don't have to know about the notes. I mean, okay, I can read this and learn it by heart, but then what do you do with it? And it's a funny thing that Charlie Parker said it without knowing Rachmaninoff. I mean, he knew him, but he didn't know the quotes. And then Rachmaninoff said that 100 years ago, and I can probably find some other quotation from the 12th century, and I can vouch that millions of musicians said that. I cannot, for example, believe, as I say in my thesis, that Bach or Beethoven or Mozart or any great master, for that matter, didn't improvise. There's no way. I know a short story that translated probably from German to English and then to Greek and then to every other language, has lost its meaning. But one short story is that Beethoven went to Mozart. They were having a matinee or whatever, and they were actually improvising on the piano. And a great challenge that Mozart told Beethoven, he said, okay, do an improvisation on this piece. And he said, and Beethoven sat down. He's a great improviser, of course. I mean, variations that he wrote were great, and even Mozart did. I mean, they were both great playing. And he sat down and played something. He says, and Mozart said, even then, that, oh no, you've prepared this, so you come back tomorrow, I'll have something else for you. And he went back the next day, and Beethoven did the same thing. I don't know if it's that true or not, but it states what I'm trying to tell you. I mean, musicians love to improvise. When the sun goes down and you have a glass of wine with a candle on your piano, you just sit there and even if you're doing work, composing something, you're going to stop for 5 minutes and just play something stupid. And it's nice when you play something stupid. Nobody's listening to you. You just enjoy it yourself, even if it's stupid. But that's something might come out of it. So all those traditions come together by improvisation, because there's no music without improvisation. Improvisation cannot exist without music. I mean, musical improvisation. There's so many improvisations. The word improvising, we do it every day in our lives. So why it's not? I mean, for classical I don't want to say musicians, because musicians usually have a global language. They know that improvisation is improvisation. I know classical musicians in Greece or abroad that they say, I love that you do that kind of thing, but I can't. And I tell them you can. Just you can do it. Some people step out of it and do it. Others don't. They believe it's a bad thing to do. It's like, robbing somebody is bad, so they believe that, this is it. Usually, classical musicians have the idea that there was never improvisation, even on stage music. And there was. The famous cadenzas of everybody. From Mozart to Paul Badura, Skoda to everybody. I mean, one pianist that I know that does this kind of thing now, there's Cyprian Katsaris, which is, lives in Paris, I think. A great piano player that he plays his own cadenzas, and some other people too. But actually, that was the record industry that stopped the cadenzas from being played from great, wonderful piano players or violin players or whatever. The industry, what they did because of people didn't know then that much about the recording process. They told them that this is going to be heard every time the same. So you cannot have any mistakes. So it's safer. They played safe. It's safer to take a last improv, write it down, and play it, than to play your own. What happens if some mistake happens? You're going to live with it the rest of your life. For classical musicians, that's no. They can't do it. They can't even live with it. For example, I don't know if you're familiar with a jazz piano player, Thelonious Monk. He used to be a genius of jazz in composition and in